Anticipations are essential to having your character start moving in a believable manner. Without good anticipations, the movement of your character will always appear to be lacking as the actions bleed together. If we understand why we need to do something, we'll be better able to know when and how to do it. So, why do we anticipate? If your character is still or the character will be changing direction, it will need to anticipate to start moving in the new direction. This shows the character gathering energy for the action and building energy to change direction. Without this, the physics behind the character's motion won't feel authentic. This is the most important reason to anticipate. Remember, we'll be working in stepped curves to create all anticipations, moving holes, and major breakdowns. Here's an arm moving without anticipation. One is in stepped and the other is in auto tangent. Once you think you have all your major poses, moving holes, anticipations, and major breakdowns done, you would move out of stepped curves. Here though, you can see how boring and mechanical the arm looks without all the necessary keys. Now here's the same arm with anticipation. Notice how having the arm anticipate in a little bit makes the action of swinging out look more natural. The arm gathers energy by first translating in. Keep in mind that anticipations can be big or small, can incorporate translations, rotations, or both. How a character anticipates can vary greatly from animator to animator. However, a good rule of thumb when approaching anticipations for the first time is equal energy in opposite direction. If the action the character does is broad and takes a lot of space, consider an anticipation that is similarly as broad. If it's a subtle action, perhaps a more subtle anticipation is needed. If the character will be moving up and to the left, perhaps his anticipation brings him down and to the right. Now this is by no means the only way to approach anticipations, but it may give you an idea of where to start. It's actually always better to do the breakdowns after you do the anticipations because the breakdowns describe the arcs from the anticipation, not from the position of rest. From the key pose, create your moving holes as needed and then create your anticipations from there. Another reason to anticipate is to draw the audience's attention so that the following fast action isn't missed. Without a clear anticipation to draw the audience's attention to what's about to happen, you might be looking elsewhere on the screen and miss the actual character action. Just remember that the most important reason is to get the character moving. Every action and change of direction requires anticipation, even small actions like head turns, so don't forget to implement them into your scene. If you do it well, it can also be very entertaining. Again, while equal energy in opposite direction is a good place to start with anticipations, it's not the only way of attempting anticipations. When looking at the entire body, think of opposing actions. Avoid having body parts move in the same direction at the same time. If the hands drop down on the anticipation, the hips shouldn't drop down as well. Look for ways to break up the movement and make the anticipation pose as interesting as possible. Here's an example of a very simple character anticipating to jump on the weight scale. Here are the poses for the jump. They've been spread out so you can see them more clearly. In this case, the anticipation acts as the squash before the stretch of the jump pose. Here's the process. You need to know where you are going to create the anticipation. Flip between the key pose you are coming from and the key pose you are going to as you create your anticipation. Then you create your major breakdowns, which will be the stretch pose for taking off and landing in this case. While we'll cover breakdowns in a separate video, they're presented here so you can get a clear idea of how the poses all work together. After that, add your secondary breakdowns. This further fleshes out the arcs of the movement. We've also added another pose to push the anticipation here. Yes, it is possible to anticipate the anticipation on an action. Here though, the second pose acts more like a hold, so the anticipation stays squashed down longer before the character springs up into action. As you can tell, a pose can thus have multiple functions, such as being an anticipation while also being a hold.
Today we're going to talk about strengthening our anticipation, making it last a little longer and pushing it a little. Here we have a lot of frames between the standing pose and the anticipation. Getting into the anticipation is a little slow. There's quite a lot of frames between here and here. So what I'm going to do is make another pose here of the anticipation, and then make this one stronger, so it'll just happen a little earlier and last a little longer. What I'm going to do is take this pose that I've already created, middle mouse copy it earlier, hit my Mel button. So now I have two poses exactly the same. And I'm pretty happy with this first anticipation, but now I'm going to make this one stronger. So what'll end up happening is he'll have a longer and stronger anticipation, but he won't be frozen in just this position as he is now. So I'll take the second pose. I'm going to lean him a little bit forward. I can even go into my graph editor and see how I could key that, and then just see how does that look. How does it flow into my other pose? And I can see, yeah, it's not flatlining, starting to lean into that one. Maybe I don't want it leaning so much, but yeah, so I could do the same with Y. How is that working? I can see that, yeah, it's flatlining. It would be nice if it was starting to go. Maybe I want it slowing out, maybe I want it halfway. This is, judgment. And the same. Now I can flip those drawings and see what's going on. It looks like he's just rocking. It would be nice if he went lower in Translate Y. So I could just push him down or key it, or I could use my graph editor. I use my graph editor quite a bit, especially when adjusting things, just so that I can see how it flows. And what's going to happen with my in-betweens. Just found it efficient. That's the key, is understanding the graph editor. And I find the more I manipulate the graph editor, the more I understand it. So there, I can get them pretty low without penetrating, so why not try it? What about Translate X? Is it doing what I want? I could have it start going in that direction, and same with C. Sometimes these little adjustments make, just that sweetness. Sometimes they don't. It's really up to the animator and what works. So let's see how that plays. You can see I've still got this all in auto tangent because that's all worked out. It's the area I'm adding that I'm going back to step so I can have stronger poses and still retain a snappier timing. If once my anticipations or breakdowns are done, keep poses of course, then I'll get out of step and see what I want to adjust. So let's do that. So grab or you can use your select button, it's a little easier. Just make sure you have everything. And I could just grab, only the area that's in step, or, turn the whole scene to auto tangent and then clean up after. So let's play blast it, because play blasting is going to be a true sense of the timing. Go in again and adjust the timing some more if I like. There's no reason why I can't steal some more time. So maybe I want to make that anticipation even longer. Maybe I want to shorten the whole scene a little bit. It's kind of playtime.
Here's an example of two anticipations. The first one is the eye movement, which anticipates the head turn. Eye movements and blinks can be used to show where the character will be changing his attention. This type of anticipation is fairly subtle, but notice it isn't just about the eyes moving. The anticipation also starts with the hips and affects the entire body to a small degree. The large anticipation is the squash before the reaction jump. Without this anticipation, the reaction wouldn't feel as snappy. Notice how both anticipations originate from the hips. If you remember that anticipation comes from the hips, you'll be doing well.
Here's a small, subtler anticipation for the look. So the eyes go first, as usual. Eyes lead the head, then the head leads the upper body. So the character anticipates down and then goes up and settles. So that's a more subtle anticipation than this one, where the character anticipates down to come back up and settle in that wave. So here, as the character goes down, notice how the hand is coming up. And of course the antennas are dragging. But that helps give us opposites. Often when I'm squashing the character, I'll blink the eyes. But notice how the hand is dragging up. But here would be the main key pose, main anticipation. And then pose you're going to is up here, and then the character settles down into that. So that's basically the character goes past the pose that it's going to settle into. So if you're going to do a go past pose, what I would do is do this, then go do the anticipation. Because your anticipation is really how you're going to get to that main next pose. And this anticipation, you're gathering the energy to create that action.
Even if you can't see the hips, you'll want to use them to anticipate, as we can still feel the up and down in the body. Squashing the spine also helps, as it creates more flexibility in the character and can give a more dynamic change of pose. Try using these tips when creating your character's anticipations. Thanks for watching.